because of political correctness. I think if his intent was to make a point, there are other ways of making it rather than to demean people. And I think basically he had a forum, and I think might have been an abuse of that forum. And I kind of, I'd like to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I can't find myself doing it. I think basically the antipathy toward groups is true all over the world, refugees, minorities coming in. But I think you have to be very, very careful and very circumspect about what you say, because there are too many people listening, and there are too many people who are going to come back, and it's not the right thing to do. It's the wrong thing, particularly on a sports show, to make it so political and make it somewhat almost unhuman to be able to criticize people just because they're not native Canadians. Huh?
Okay. But yeah, obviously doing it on national TV and the fact that you have social media doesn't help his cause any either. Social media will blow things up badly.
It's hard to know what his real intent was, what his message was, what he was trying to communicate. And it doesn't look like he had any substance to what he had said. And still in all, he held to it even after he got fired. So I think sometimes people don't realize how insensitive their talks are or their opinions are. And when they're called up for it, they don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, that's too bad. And unfortunately, nowadays it happens way too often.
Oh, yeah.
I mean...
by the way, Frank, you're talking with Lewis. He's our co-host.
How's it going, Frank? Nice to meet you.
Good. Nice to meet you. How you doing?
Good. So, I mean, yeah, you guys both make a couple of very valid points. I think, I'm sure I and Scott, I wasn't around for it, but you two can remember the Al Campanis incident and the way that blew up back for when he was working with the Dodgers in 1988. But I think, and that was a big deal then, but I think in the era of cancel culture where, social media will exacerbate and twist your words or air out your comments on, to millions, possibly even billions of people, it's not a good thing for him, especially when you double down your comments. Look, I'll be on the record and say it's okay to be outspoken on certain things, but when you're on a platform such as national television and you're calling a sport that draws in billions of dollars in viewership a year, I think you can try to tamper down your notions of political correctness. I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And could he have any platform to say this at all? Maybe if he was doing it on a smaller medium outside of the NHL.
Well, I think his forum was wrong. I think it's all right to be outspoken about, if you're a hockey person, to be outspoken about the game and the people in it. But this is derogatory and something that doesn't relate to what he's supposed to be doing at all. And I wonder what his real motive was in saying that. I wonder if he's just letting off steam in the wrong place or whether he had an agenda. But I think basically you've got to be a little bit more sensitive to what you say and what you do in current times.
And yeah, his insight. I mean, if as hockey fans, you look for his insight on the sport itself and the way it's evolved over the years. You don't look to Don Cherry to be a guy to make comments on, social issues. I mean, he's had his problems in the past before. I believe he had some comments in the wake of the Iraq War in like the early 2000s that drew a little bit of controversy. But so he's not a stranger to this. But at the same time, you don't look to commentators to be, figureheads in social justice movements. I don't think that's not their medium. It shouldn't be where they, make their word, and make their living.
Yeah, it's the same kind of controversy that goes on in the NFL with
Kaepernick.
Is that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Colin Kaepernick. Yeah, but that's a different animal. Yeah, that.
It's. I don't know whether it's appropriate or not to kneel at the Star Spangled Banner, but there should be other avenues that you can make the same kind of protest and get the same kind of attention.
Yeah, Frank, let's go back to Don Cherry. Do you know Don Cherry?
No, I don't think I've ever met him.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back when I was living back in Detroit, I used to follow him all the time, and always followed the Canadian broadcasters. A lot of people know about him for his flash and dash, with his jackets and his attire. But I think after a while, do you think that his act was getting old?
Oh yeah, I think so. It's kind of the same kind of outspoken loudness that doesn't always have substance behind it. But I think he's a little more qualified in talking about hockey than he is about politics.
Well, now, did you know today, and I read this on the Toronto Sun, that Don Cherry is diving into the podcast industry? So, when you get off FCC, or I don't know, what is it, CCC out in Canada, now he can talk whatever he wants. He has his 2 kids working with him, and he's getting into the podcasting industry. So I had a feeling that he wasn't going to be silent for too long.
Yeah. It's very difficult for another network to hire you when you get caught in something like this, even though they probably would like to, and just overlook it the way they do most foibles in sports. The leash is very long for some sports people, particularly superstars.
Frank, I'd make this argument. Look, I personally think he has a vendetta now against the NHL, given he was ousted for his comments. If any of us were to listen to his podcast, whenever that airs, and once he starts putting them out on a regular basis, podcasts give you the right to be a little bit more outspoken. I think because obviously you're not broadcasting on a major network, and maybe there's like some big media subsidiaries that are affiliated with people who do certain podcasts. But I think you'll probably hear a big mixture of obviously NHL news, stories of days of yore, and you know what, he'll probably throw in a little bit of social justice on there. He's probably going to have a little less of a leash on what he is and isn't allowed to say there. He'll be free to pretty much say whatever he wants. It's just going to be a matter of how he articulates it. And
well, he's going to articulate it the way that he does. Frank and I both know that Don Cherry, will get a very big following very quickly because of who he is and the cachet that he's built, not only as a coach but a commentator. I don't think that's really the case, Frank. Do you? The question is will his message get old, and how long will it take until it gets to many?
Well, I think the other question is too: does he have enough discipline to be a little bit more controlled in what he says?
Right. Good point.
Is he using the podcast as a platform to justify what he said?
Good point. Really good point. Yeah, and again, that's the old proverbial situation that you have. That social media will kill you. It will. And in Ron McLean's case, I don't think he gave him a chance to really get out of it. I didn't see the interview itself. Whereas Ted Koppel tried to get El Campanis to get out of a situation that was boiling really hot. So the relationship between these two guys, having worked for 30 years, and then I know Dave Hodge. Did you ever know Dave Hodge back then?
No.
Oh, you didn't? Okay, so you never followed those guys. But you had guys that could have rescued Don from himself, but obviously Don couldn't rescue himself from himself.
Yeah. Well, look at all the people who've gone down there. Remember Jimmy the Greek?
Oh, yeah.
The NFL show?
Mm-hmm.
And all it takes is one strike, and your career is down the tubes.
I mean, remember in the late 90s, John Rocker, reliever for the Atlanta Braves, his controversial comments when he was in New York, obviously very homophobic comments, very misogynistic and chauvinistic comments that pretty much ousted him from the major leagues. He played again, but that's a reputation that's followed him even 20 years after the fact.
Yeah, well, okay. Yeah. Stay on the hockey, Lewis.
Well, I think basically you've got a bad situation when you've got antagonizing a group, regardless of what the group is, and the group should be angry at him. he specified anyone. He said those people, but obviously it was obvious who he was referring to.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. And that's really what it's all about is, again, we're talking about broadcasting. Is what we're talking about, guys that have microphone all the time. Whether you're dealing with a player or not, you don't like to condone it either way, but the broadcasters reach a lot more people, and obviously, to me, it's vitally important, okay, to realize that you have a platform. Don't abuse that platform. Too many guys, okay, don't get it figured out.
Yeah, my years in the CFL were very rewarding to me. But one of the things I learned that when the black players, particularly American black players, came up to play in Canada, they were surprised at how well they were treated and how little bit of prejudice there was toward them. And this is exactly the direct opposite that the culture of Canada has in terms of minorities.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And that's really what it comes down to is the fact that, you get into a situation where, again, I can't say that any public, forum for which you talk about these things is condoned, you know what I mean? But the thing that's important to understand is when you're trying to go ahead and you're talking to a countrywide of people like Jerry was, I understand that sometimes the words being what they are, but they affect a lot of people. I don't like talking about immigrants in any way, shape, or form. Whether you think it's true or not, it's vitally important to understand the reality that there's a time and a place when to talk about certain things, and that's pretty much how it is. Don't you think, Frank?
Yeah, and I think, as you said before, social media contributes a lot to that because people can mention anything they want. They can mention lies, and people read it and think it's true. They can mention anything they want, and
right.
I think that changes the culture a little bit. Instead of learning constraint, you learn to blab out anything you want, anytime.
Right. No, I'm with you. So, any final thoughts about this, Frank, about Don Cherry or what he said or shouldn't have said?
Yeah, I think I'd like to know what his agenda is, what point he was trying to make.
Right.
I hope it isn't the one that seems obvious from his talk, but maybe he had something in mind, or maybe he had an incident or an experience, but there are ways of handling that, and I don't think he handled it properly.
Yeah, no, he picked the wrong medium to relay that message, but, I don't know how free speech laws are in Canada, but they really should have no place on a network you're talking sports. I just think, that's for another network to discuss.
Yeah, well, Michael Santos will definitely be talking about it again. I'll be curious to get Michael's perspective of what he thinks about Don Cherry's new life behind the mic. But meanwhile, Frank, as always, it's great to have you on the program, and look forward to having you on in the near future. Okay, Frank?
Thank you, and say hello to Mike for me, huh?
I will do that. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right,
bye.
Take care.
So that's a unique perspective, obviously, about Frank. This guy's a Hall of Famer. He's worked in the Canadian Football League, and, he's as a psychologist, and he's also gone ahead and worked in the National Hockey League as a psychologist, too.
Yeah, and then, for somebody like that, he pretty much said it best. You want his analysis on hockey. You don't want his analysis on something outside of that realm. We've seen that 1,000 times before, but, especially now where everything is exacerbated to the upteenth degree, you can't, you really just need to, when you're on a particular network and you're if you're covering an NHL game,
right, that's
what I want to hear you talking about. If you're covering another sport, I want to hear you talking about that sport. I don't need to hear about any, background noise that's going on around you. And in this case, I think that's where Cherry messed up. But I will argue there's a hypersensitivity, though I did hear his comments, and his comments were a little out of character. Sure, he's a very animated character, as we all know.
Oh, yeah.
But, he shouldn't